Mosquito, also known as Chris. Yep. Table saw parts. Awesome. I'll come get them today. Sorry? Who doesn't sit around with a camera and wired from mic all the time? All right, so we are now back from our adventure. As you can tell, I'm wearing shorts. Seasons have changed, one thing led to another, and that took a while. But here we've got all those parts back from the sandblasters, so the main cabinet parts are over there. And then we've got the table, the two extension wings here, and the table itself. And I only had the sides and the bottom, or the underside of those blasted, so that should be ready to go. And then in this tote here, we've got just some more parts, kind of the motor mounting brackets, the parts that help it or that allow it to slide up and down, the main casting that swings underneath for the bevel angle, and then these two dust doors. So that's like the lower dust door and then kind of the round dust door up at the top to be able to change blades. What you saw me do is I vacuumed them because they might have been sitting around at the sandblasters for a little while. Wiped them down after that with some acetone and then get to priming. Just a heads up, in case you haven't noticed it, when I go into these time-lapse things, that little blue bar over on the left-hand side of your screen, that's just an indicator for how long it is before the time-lapse is done. So if you don't feel like watching any of the time-lapse stuff, kind of skip through that. That gives you an idea of where it is. All right, so I've got a few parts already worked on, but few more to go. So what I've got here is Rust-Oleum Farm and Implement, and this is the red oxide metal primer. So since metal, I'm going to prime it before I paint it. I find that I actually prefer brushing this on because it's a little bit thinner, and then I can really get into all the nooks and crannies, and I mean, I can get into all those same places with the spray gun too, but I just like brushing on this part because it's a little bit easier, and since I'm only doing one coat, it's not as big of a deal. So I've kind of found that a little bit of a dabbing works pretty well to get into a lot of the little corners and crevices and stuff. There's a lot of mostly rounded in the corners where things meet, but I just find it's a lot easier to get in there if I just kind of poke at it rather than trying to brush everything. I mean, I definitely brush all the flat surfaces, but when it comes to a lot of these corners, it's just way easier to get in there if I just kind of go at it like that. And this stuff levels pretty well, so I'm not too worried about that aspect of it. Basically, there's a lot of it, and I just work my way around. And these are just really cheap chip brushes. One thing to note, though, is it's definitely beneficial to just kind of rag on the brush a little bit when you first start. Just before you actually start painting, I like to grab it and pull it and try to get a lot of those loose bristles out of there as I can, just because they'll drop a few as you're going, but it's not a huge deal because, like I said, it's not very thick, especially once it's dried. So those are pretty easy to pick out, and since I'll be spraying the finish or the top coats. Not too worried about it if I have to pick it out and there's a couple little marks from that. But I do not like the smell of this, and I don't particularly enjoy headaches. So I'm going to cut this video. We will switch to time lapse and I'll put my mask on. Another round of priming done, so we'll let this dry for a little while. By that I mean probably till tomorrow, and then I will see what I need to touch up. Usually there's 1 or 2 or 3 or 7 or 28 spots that need to be touched up, because it's pretty easy to miss stuff when it's glossy. It's not always that easy to see the gray through some of the gloss, so that's what I usually do. Is the next day I'll come back, I'll look and see what I need to touch up, I'll touch them up quick, and then we will flip these parts over and we will prime the other side. Lots of priming, but I think it goes faster than the painting. Either way, it's worth it. Got all the parts primed now. You kind of see them right behind me. There's a bunch. And last time, you might remember, I had the paint pit. Well, this time, there's more of a paint enclosure, I guess. I don't know what to call it. Essentially, it's just a little pop-up gazebo, and I have some plastic around it, and the parts in it. Here you can kind of see I've got parts on the floor, just like I used to, elevated with a little makeshift table thing. And then I've got 2 filters. One of them is an old dehumidifier fan, and then the other one is actually a high airflow blower fan. Basically what I end up doing is I'll paint these things, I'll let them sit for the 2 to 4 to 6 hours for handling, and then I'll move them over somewhere onto one of these tables. Basically paint the parts, move the parts. All right, well, let's get suited up and get on to it. Well, that pretty much sucked. I mean, the paint booth-ish thing worked, but I think I spent more time fighting with the frickin' gun than I did actually painting. So that was a lot of fun, getting to clean 3 guns after none of them really worked that well. I think I need to reduce the paint a little bit, kind of thin it out. So I'm gonna try that with the second batch. Got some more parts over there and we'll see what happens. Nothing terrible happened because I just basically put a crap ton of paint on it and let it level out. But yeah, that was certainly not what I was hoping for, but we can go take a look at the results. Probably looks a little bit better on camera than it does in person, but there were some spots where, like here, you can kind of see the high spots of the casting really didn't get covered up very well, which I was planning on doing a second coat regardless, but in my first round of painting, or I should say the other saw painting, those actually turned out better. So I think I'm going to try thinning it down a little bit, and we will see if I can get some better atomization, because I think that was my problem. I was basically getting confetti shooting out of the gun. Let's see if we can't get this thinned out just a little bit. It says on the can to use mineral spirits to thin. It also tells you not to go crazy, so don't go crazy. That definitely looks better. Let's get ready and give this a try. All right, we will see how that goes. I am going to get suited up here and we will try spraying with some thinned out paint. All right, so that was better. Still wasn't the greatest, and I think I don't want to blame the gun because I'm not that good at painting, but it felt like no matter how small I had the pattern set, it was like it was wide. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but anyway, we're making do. And yeah, the spray booth seems to be working pretty well. These are the results of that first set, that first spraying, and we will give this a little bit to tack up, and then we will come back in and give it a second coat here. I did a little bit of touch-up spray on some of these. I'm still going to have to do a second coat of everything anyway, but I just wanted to get some of the thin spots, and it seems to be going pretty well on that, so I'm thinking the second coat should be good for that. These I actually hit twice, which I forgot is what I had done before. So what I do is I did that spray, let it tack up, and then spray again. So this second coat is looking pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with that. Keep plugging away. Basically, I can only do maybe 2 if I can manage to get out here early, if my wife is feeling nice. Thanks, honey. I can get out here and get some painting done early, take a little bit of a break, and then come back and maybe get in a late night 10:30 spray. I don't know. We'll see. I'm kind of running out of room for parts to actually be able to sit out and dry. So I could use that, but these parts are pretty big, so I don't think I'm going to end up doing that. I might just call it a night, even though it's pretty early. Anyway, we will pick it up when we get another chance to get out here and get some spraying done. Okay, so I should have the last of the parts now in the spray booth, and I've got all the parts kind of scattered around. There's a bunch in there. There's some on a table over there, and then there's a bunch on the table saw over here. So we'll get those all figured out here shortly, but I'm excited to get those out of the spray booth, and I think I should be good for spraying. There might be a few little things here and there, like little castings for like hand cranks and stuff like that. I might have a few of those little things to do, but I don't think I have anything else that's big enough that'll warrant the spray booth itself. So hopefully that's done, and I will get all that taken down, because clearly it takes up quite a bit of space in the shop. So while we're waiting for some parts to dry, I thought I'd show you the setup a little bit. I don't have a crazy compressor or anything. Small-ish compressor. It's a little bit bigger than a pancake compressor. I don't know how well you do with a pancake, but this is what I used for the whole thing. So you don't really need to have an absolutely ginormous compressor. You just have to take it easy and maybe wait a little bit in between when you're spraying. You might have to just stop every now and then and let it catch up a bit. Not a huge deal. Got it done. I did end up picking up a new spray gun. This is a Astro Pneumatic Tools Euro Pro HE, and the one that I got has a 1.7 tip. You know, there's a bunch of different tip sizes, but that's the size I went with. And I started reading some of the reviews, and I came across a lot of those reviews that were talking about Paint Society YouTube channel, I think it was, that was kind of doing a demonstration and kind of recommended this one. Looked into that a little, and I don't know, seemed like it was worth a shot. I think it was around $100, a little less than $100, 90 something maybe. I'll leave a link down below to this one if you're interested in it. Got the job done. I don't know if it's the gun that I was using before that was the problem, or if it was still me, but if nothing else, that one was a lot easier to dial in, and I was able to get a pretty good pattern and get things to lay down a lot better. So kind of wish I would have done that a while ago, but oh well, now I've got it for later. Okay, I've obviously got the paint booth put away and all the parts are now painted. What I'm going to do is all these little pipings, I guess, or whatever you want to call them, these little details on a lot of these castings, I intend to paint them black. I really liked the way that looked on the other one. We'll get a little bit of a sneak peek here. So that's what I'm gonna do for this one. So here I've got the plan. Got a couple of foam brushes and firmest foam roller that I could find, and then my low gloss paint. My plan here is I'm basically going to just slop a bunch of paint onto this piece of wood, and then we'll be able to use the roller for that. That's too wide. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm trying to load up the roller so that it's not super, super light when I put it on, but I also don't want to have so much that it's going to run and drip. So basically I'm just using this scrap of plywood as a way to kind of prep the roller, in a manner of speaking. And then from there, we just start to roll it on. And since this one goes around a corner, I'll pick it up. One of the keys to success here is making sure that you get a nice even pressure, because that's what's ultimately going to determine the width and how much of that piping you end up kind of rolling onto. Because obviously if I were to just jam on this thing, I'd be able to paint all the way down to the flat casting, and that's obviously not what I want. So basically trying to keep your pressure even across all these is key to getting a nice even look to them. And then I've got my foam brush that I plan to use on these little areas. Try a little bit to match what the roller looks like. I'm more or less dabbing in. I'm not brushing on because I don't want to get any streaks, because that's not really what the roller looks like. So on this one, it's going to be a little bit different because there's actually all these extra areas right here and right there that are going to have badging on them. So this is the Walker Turner logo, this is the tilt scale, and I'm going to do this section around the opening. I'm also going to do the background of where both of those badges are. Most of that's going to get covered up by the badges, but I just want to have that little continuation because, one, it's a lot easier than trying to stop at that little line, and it'll just look a little bit better behind the badges, I think. And then I'm actually going to also carry this around on the inside is what I did last time. So I kind of went around it here, and then I also came around on the inside. So I'll end up doing it here as well. And then just a little bit of cleanup here and there for some small spots that may have touched that I didn't intend to. But since the other paint is fully cured, that is no problem. Cool. There are all of our pieces piped. Okay, I think that's going to do it for this time. I feel like we got a lot done. That was actually a lot more than I was expecting to get done. I was going to be happy if I could just get all the parts primed because I didn't think I was going to have such nice weather for painting. Something about when the sun shines and hang when it's dry and cut your grass before it rains. Anyway, I'm just happy that I got all the painting done, and hopefully we will get back to the rest of it soon. I appreciate those of you that stuck around this far. I would love it if you hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with the progress of the table saw. And I will catch you in the next one.